In today's video, we have lots to discuss, including some trade talk around some goalies that we could see on the move this offseason. Could guys like Linus Ullmark, Jacob Markstrom, and Jussi Saros all potentially find themselves on the move? With everything going down in Pittsburgh, what does the future hold for Captain Sidney Crosby? We also have the latest as well on the Ottawa Senators and the Calgary Flames regarding some potential other moves that could happen there. We have a few signings to discuss today as well. There was a couple of minor trades involving the Ottawa Senators. We also have news regarding Team Canada's general manager for the 2026 Olympic team, and the Dallas Stars are unveiling a new statue tomorrow as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today, so let's dive right in and get started. Team Canada has announced their general manager for the Olympic team coming up in 2026, and that's St. Louis Blues GM Doug Armstrong. This is no surprise. I know there's mixed opinions out there about the work of Armstrong during his tenure with the St. Louis Blues. At the end of the day, though, I'm not surprised that they went back to Armstrong. He was supposed to be the GM for the previous Olympics in 2022 when the NHL ultimately decided pretty late, close to the time of the Olympics, that they were pulling out and not going. So Armstrong didn't get a chance to fulfill those duties. And, he does have a Stanley Cup to his resume. He's got tons of experience. And obviously, say what you want about him, but Team Canada certainly likes him. So he's going to be the GM for Team Canada's Olympic team, and he's going to be taking on a management role as well for some other Team Canada stuff and kind of overseeing it, almost more like a senior manager, if you will. He'll be in charge of helping the team discover and name their GM for the 2025 Four Nations Cup being put on by the NHL next year, as well as the upcoming next couple of years for the World Championships. So obviously he's going to be involved with a lot of Team Canada activities here in the next couple of years. Former NHLer Ryan Getzlaf is getting involved as well with Team Canada. He's going to have a role within that organization for the Olympic team as well. The Dallas Stars are unveiling a Mike Modano statue this weekend. Obviously, Modano, one of the greatest American-born players of all time. Certainly one of the greatest, if not maybe even the greatest Dallas Star player of all time. Certainly well-deserving of the honor. So that's certainly a big milestone and event to look forward to for this coming weekend. Lots of signings around the league today regarding some prospects. The Vancouver Canucks today confirmed they've signed right shot prospect defenseman Christian Felton. He gets a one-year entry-level deal due to his age. He's 24 years old. He is a college free agent signing from Merrimack College. So I know he's an interesting prospect that the Canucks were rumored to be interested in. So we'll see if the right shot defenseman can generate much, or how this is going to go for him, if he can become an NHLer or what have you. But they've officially got him under contract. The Dallas Stars today as well, they've signed one of their prospects from the 2023 draft. That's Tristan Bertucci. He gets a 3-year ELC. He's a left shot D who was taken in the second round here in 2023. The Rangers today also recalled Adam Edstrom. And we also seen the Rangers sign prospect goalie Hugo Olas, who's also from Merrimack College, like his teammate here that went to the Vancouver Canucks, except he gets a 2-year ELC because he's a little bit younger, so he gets under contract here with the Rangers as a college free agent signing. A couple of injury updates as well. The Winnipeg Jets today confirmed that Gabe Vilardi is going to be out for an undetermined period of time. I'm not really sure what to make of this, but he's been diagnosed with an enlarged spleen. He's not going to travel with the team on their upcoming 5-game road trip. He will be getting treatment, and like I said, no confirmed timeline exactly what they're looking at. They're going to take this probably day by day, week by week, and see. Hopefully it's not too extensive and too long. But again, when it comes to spleens, like we've seen with Mark Stone, it can be quite challenging and difficult to kind of pinpoint a timeline. So, it's kind of an odd scenario. You don't really hear much about spleen-related issues, and to have two players like that here recently in the NHL have those issues, it's kind of a little bit unusual. The Predators today also announced that they've have injury to defenseman Spencer Stastny, who's now listed as week-to-week with an upper body injury. A couple of trades took place earlier today, which there is a video on the channel analyzing these a little bit more in depth. But essentially, the Senators Picked up Wyatt Bongiovanni, who's from the Winnipeg Jets organization, playing with the Manitoba Moose. He's hovering around a half a point per game. That was picked up for future considerations. Bongiovanni is a 24-year-old centerman, obviously trying to bulk up the team for Belleville ahead of the playoffs, especially considering the injuries at both the NHL and AHL level, which have depleted their roster there a little bit. They then later in the day picked up a prospect from the Hurricanes organization, Jamison Rees, who is a second-round pick in 2018. He also comes over to the Sens organization for a sixth-round draft selection. He will be assigned to the Belleville Senators and make his debut this weekend. Rees appears to be kind of a victim of the lack of affiliate due to the Hurricanes situation there, not having a dedicated one with the American Hockey League anyways right now. He's bounced around having to play between Springfield and Chicago, and definitely a player you can see benefiting from a potential change in scenery. So we'll see how those players work out for the Senators for the rest of this year. Because we're past the trade deadline, they can't play at the NHL level, but they're certainly able to join the Belleville team in the American Hockey League and see what the Sens think of them for the future. Of course, we had heard a few days ago that the situation with Corey Perry and the Chicago Blackhawks regarding his contract termination basically had been settled. There was no official grievance filed, but Perry, represented by the NHLPA, and the Blackhawks and the league, of course, all kind of come to an agreement, you could say. We don't know exactly what the terms of that agreement is on a settlement, but it is expected, according to NHL insider Chris Johnston, that the Blackhawks will have some sort of cap charge because of that for their salary cap situation for Perry. So I don't know if they'll officially announce that here soon, but it is something that's expected to impact them. They've got tons of cap space, and it wasn't that huge of a contract in the grand scheme of things, so likely won't really hurt them or impact them a whole heck of a lot. On the rumor mill, what should we expect down the road here? Of course, we're going to be having a very interesting offseason. I know there's a new 32 Thoughts podcast today from Elliotte Friedman and Jeff Merrick. They talked a bit about Sidney Crosby. We know that the Pittsburgh Penguins, at this rate, it's not a given that they missed the playoffs, but they're not in good shape. They're not looking good. They've found themselves, on the outside looking in here. We've seen Dubas trade Jake Gensel and move some people out so that, it's unusual for them to be sellers at the NHL trade deadline. Crosby is going to be entering the final year of his long-term contract with the Penguins next year. So this summer, he would be eligible to sign an extension. There's a lot of people questioning his future. Does he want to stick around with the Penguins, or would he want to go continue to be in a more competitive situation and chase the Stanley Cup with another organization before his days are over? Well, according to Elliotte Friedman, he fully suspects that Crosby stays and signs an extension pretty well on July 1st as soon as he's eligible. He does not see a scenario, but he also always says that could always be proven wrong because it's not, 100% confirmed right now. But, where the fact that Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang both signed longer-term extensions last year and have committed to not only staying in Pittsburgh, but, staying for not only the coming season, but multiple years beyond that. He can't imagine a scenario where Crosby decides to kind of just leave them high and dry. Obviously, Crosby was, you could say, to some degree, a factor in influencing the team to make sure he kept his top teammates around. I'm sure that's something that they all kind of talked about together, wanting to continue playing together, continuing to try to be successful with one more Stanley Cup at least before they retire. And at the end of the day, where he was influential in them staying, it would be shocking if he decided that I'm out of here and decided to go to another team. So expectation is right now that Crosby will re-sign an extension for 2, possibly 3 years and remain with the Penguins, and which could be the end of his career, but it's really difficult to say at this point. The way he's playing, it's hard to imagine exactly when his final days will come. Now, on to some other teams to talk about here around the NHL as well. The goalies are going to be a prime target here this offseason, according to Elliotte Friedman. There's also reports from James Nichols, who's a beat writer covering the New Jersey Devils, saying that the Devils would be expected to go after UC Saros. They've already been linked to Markstrom, and that's still possible, but they're certainly interested in getting one of these top goalies to come to the Devils organization. As I mentioned before, with the moves they made in the offseason, we saw Jake Allen make his debut last night for the Devils. I can see him sticking around in New Jersey next year. Of course, they traded Vanacek. They still have Schmid and Dawes who can stay in the minors and continue developing. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if they did try to bring in another top-level goaltender like a Saros or a Markstrom to be the tandem with Allen for at least a year or two before one of those two goalies can move up and kind of probably take Jake's spot, so to speak. So at the end of the day, our Allmark, Markstrom, and Saros all going to be moved. Not a given, but there's definitely tons of interest, and all three of the teams that they're currently with definitely have varying levels of degrees of interest to making those trades. We all know that they all have different areas of weakness they want to address, including the fact in Calgary that they want to create more of a role for Dustin Wolf on top of those needs. And then, as I said, when you look at teams like Boston who need help in various other areas, including the forward position, and then Nashville, of course, could use some different mix as well, because they do have Yaroslav Askarov in the minors, who was more than willing and ready by the looks of things to take the jump here to being in a full-time NHLer. So at the end of the day, those three goalies are all going to be generating a lot of interest, and even though they'll have high price tags, good chance we see at least a couple of them move this coming summer. Now, the Ottawa Senators apparently at the trade deadline that just went by also received a lot of interest on Jacob Bernard-Docker. Now, this was not a case of Steve Staios out there shopping JBD. That wasn't the case at all. But Staios did do an awful lot of listening. He wanted to learn as much as he could on a lot of his players to kind of determine what other teams thought of them, what their value might be. Still trying to make determinations on which players he definitely doesn't want to move and which ones he'd be open to moving for the right deal to improve the overall success rate of the hockey club. And at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of teams came calling on Jacob Bernard-Docker. Right shot defenseman, 24 years old, spent a few years in college, got second year pro now. Obviously, Jacob Bernard-Docker is having his first full NHL campaign after being recalled earlier this season. He's never gone back down. He did go through waivers and training camp, but ended up clearing and was able to stay with the Sens. So clearly they value him because the price tag has been rumored to be quite high, which is why they never got an offer that they felt was acceptable enough to consider pulling the trigger. They're also weaker on the right side than the left side, and he's one of their righties that can play NHL games right now, whereas, like I said before, Shabbat and Chikrin are the more questionable guys. One of those two guys likely gets traded in the offseason to kind of, combination of rejig this decor and to find help in other areas of the team. So at the end of the day, Bernard-Docker likely does not get moved, but interesting to hear that he did generate a ton of interest. So if they do get the right offer in the offseason and they have a chance to upgrade that spot, as much as they like him, they'd have to consider it for sure. Now, we also got reports out of Calgary indicating that the next Flames veteran that could be moved would be Nazem Kadri. We talked about him a few days back, wondering what the future holds for him. I know he was asked after around the trade deadline, obviously, to get his thoughts and comments on all of his teammates that have been moved out throughout the last number of weeks here. And he didn't sound like he was all that interested in being part of a rebuild. He'd have 5 years left of a 7-year deal. It's not crazy money if they can find a way to make a trade in the NHL for Tomas Hertl from San Jose to Vegas. I'm sure the Flames can figure out parting ways with Kadri if he really wanted to move on. I mean, if you look at some teams like the Bruins who would want a centerman, he plays that Bruin style. He can produce offensively. He can be that agitator, physical kind of player as well, has the grit. And we know that they had a lot of wars with Kadri during his time with the Leafs. They know this player very well. I would not be shocked if the Flames were open to moving him, mainly because of the contract. As his contract and as a player, does he fit the vision of this team moving forward? You could probably make an argument that he doesn't. And if they do move him or decide that he's a player they're willing to move and make it known, I can see the Bruins being all over that. I mean, seeing Kadri in Boston to me would be really, really interesting. Like I said, based on the past history of the battles he's had with that franchise, I don't think that they would be the only interested teams. There would be other teams for sure that would be, checking in on his status for sure. I mean, Kadri's a player who's still performing at a high level and is, early to mid 30s here. A lot of term left, and he could be a valuable piece. I don't know what the asking price would be, but clearly a name to watch this offseason as the Flames continue to retool that team in a new direction. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.